France celebrates a revolution with a giant fireworks show. Then, a show of support for revolutionary changes throughout Europe. This is the CBS Evening News. Bob Schieffer reporting. Good evening. Well, the big gathering of the world's economic nations is winding down in Paris tonight and apparently went so smoothly, even Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev took notice. He sent a letter to the leaders today pointing out the economic reforms that he's pushing in his country and urging that the Soviet Union be allowed to take a larger role in world economic affairs. Dan Rather's been heading up our coverage in Paris this week, and we go to him now for the latest.
Bob, there's a warm afterglow here at the Arch de la Défense Economic Summit on the night after the world was invited to this nation's Bastille Day 200th anniversary celebration. The good time vibes apparently extend to the business of the Summit 7. So much so, the leaders of the major trading countries of the free world decided tonight to end the economic summit early. They're already out with a communique papering over their differences. Agreement to help Hungary and Poland, no money yet. Agreement to urge a freeze on World Bank loans to China for its suppression of the pro-democracy, pro-reform movement. No freeze yet. Agreement just breaking out all over.
You're going to see unanimity on the part of summit leaders.
While they're out with issue papers here, it's strictly paper plates here. At a gathering for have-nots in the counterculture, there were agendas and schedules and statements about third world debt and global environment. These people arrived to find their meeting room had been taken away. But in most of Paris, almost nothing stirred. Paris was catching up on lost sleep. Only for a moment was the silence broken by a group that looked like it was going home after a party. Napoleon did not like being spoken to in English.
Who are you, sir?
Napoleon.
Just one more serious dignitary. Serious business across town, too. But this game is serious everyday business in France. Paris, it seems, was quickly getting back to the business of everyday life. There's been a lot of strategic maneuvering and game planning and posturing here at the Economic Summit today. White House correspondent Wyatt Andrews has the latest on that.
Meeting atop the towering new Arch de la Défense, the Western leaders issued a clear endorsement of President Bush's East Bloc diplomacy. They supported his call for more aid to Poland and Hungary, but also his approach, encouraging private enterprise and investment rather than big new loans or grants of cash.
There's been some misconceptions that we would come in here with a dollar figure for a lot of aid programs.
The leaders avoided specific promises of aid, but did call for a worldwide conference to be scheduled within weeks to discuss assistance to Poland and Hungary.
We don't want to just let this drop. We want to follow up on it, and we want to follow up on it as expeditiously as we can.
Mikhail Gorbachev even wrote his first ever letter to this summit, saying he now wants to open the Soviet economy as well, as if he were asking not to be left out of the new Western look to the East. President Francois Mitterrand, who hosted Gorbachev here not 2 weeks ago, read the letter aloud, quoting Gorbachev saying, "Perestroika means participation in the world's economy." Gorbachev's letter only helped boost the sense of heady confidence in these leaders, that the world is under control, communism in retreat, and their differences easy to ignore. The leaders especially glossed over the question of China, condemning the Beijing crackdown, but sending no new signal to the Chinese leadership.
Well, we naturally cooperate. That's what the summit is all about.
The President and Secretary of State appeared so full of success, they came to one meeting playing like schoolboys back from recess.
Secretary Baker's very late. We're angry.
The all-is-well attitude is so pervasive, the summit will likely end early tomorrow with the leaders claiming they've got the work done. Yet critics are already complaining the summit leaders didn't do nearly enough to deserve this atmosphere of self-congratulations. Wyatt Andrews, CBS News, Paris.
Footnote to summit history. Margaret Thatcher, the Iron Lady, is odd man out here. Her French hosts did not like at all her public poo-pooing of the significance of the French Revolution. So at each formal event, she's been relegated to the last row. You had to look hard to find her at all at yesterday's military parade. She's the one in the white hat sitting behind Philippine President Cory Aquino, way back in the pack. The economic summiteers are meeting in a Europe alive with change and possibilities and challenge. They represent the richest capitalist countries in the world. But amid the changing face of communism and the new face of Europe, there is a new key player in Euro economics. Aside from the letter Mikhail Gorbachev sent to the summit pitching for closer East-West economic ties, the latest polling for CBS News indicates growing popularity for Gorbachev in the non-communist world. And nowhere is Gorbachev more popular than in West Germany. Business correspondent Ray Brady reports on Mikhail Gorbachev, the traveling salesman, wheeler-dealer man from Moscow.
There's a shadow hanging over the leaders at this economic summit, the shadow of a man who is not here, Premier Mikhail Gorbachev of Russia. He's been campaigning hard for more trade with the West, especially with West Germany. Some nations, though, already are worrying that what's good for West Germany and Russia may not be good for the rest of Europe. For the Germans, though, it's not even an issue, as its trade keeps increasing. The Germans are in a joint venture to make machine tools with the Russians. They are selling them 200,000 personal computers. And they are even running schools, teaching the Russians business management, a skill lacking in the Soviet Union after long years of communist rule.
Does the West German willingness to sell things like PCs to the Soviets, is this going to bring them in increasing conflict with the Allies?
There's going to be some trouble there because the Western Allies are not supposed to sell the most advanced technology to the Soviet Union.
But some nations at this economic summit feel that more exposure to capitalism through trade will keep the nations of the East moving toward more democratic forms of government. And that includes a lot of U.S. businessmen. At this big Russian trade show in Manhattan recently, a lot of them were saying they are unhappy that severe restrictions still apply on Russian goods sent into the U.S. Restrictions that, they say, could in return cause the U.S. to lose some big orders from the Russians.
We have an obligation to our country and to our people to deal effectively from a commerce standpoint with the country that is the second largest economy in the world.
America can lose his chance now, the chance to build on this world.
What's becoming clear at this summit is that when it comes to the question of East-West trade, Western business is running well ahead of any political considerations here. The best bridges, executives say, are built by businessmen, not by bureaucrats. Ray Brady, CBS News, Paris.
After the deluge of Bastille Day's bicentennial bans, balls, and bashes, Tom Fenton reports on how the day after Paris got swept off its feet, they did the grand sweep of Paris today, and the tourists took over.
France's big party is almost over, but the music lingers on this bicentennial weekend, and so do the guests, many of them Americans.
Just the feel of the people in the city is wonderful, absolutely wonderful. You can feel it.
Aside from the tourists and the ever-present security roaring up and down the Champs-Élysées, these are the dog days of summer in Paris, and the big story for the French is the debate over how the bicentennial celebration is going.
It was the usual bickering, which is a French national sport about the traffic problems and all those things, but I think people at the same time were extremely proud.
But if the French are proud, they didn't stick around for the party. Just beyond the Eiffel Tower, under the gaze of Paris's own Statue of Liberty, the streets are quiet. 1 million Parisians have left town, replaced by 1 million tourists, all of them squeezed into the usual spots, buying souvenirs, snapping pictures, and just basking in the sun. The French seem to have forgotten it, but many of the ideas behind their revolution were inspired by the American Revolution. And now, 200 years later, Paris is overrun with Americans helping the French celebrate their bicentennial. And it's the Americans who seem to be enjoying it the most.
We came down here yesterday and we're squashed, just like being on the New York subway, but it was wonderful.
I think France is doing itself proud.
Spectacular.
You liked it?
Outstanding. Unusual, different.
And tonight, the grand finale, a bicentennial fireworks display. For an American in Paris, it rivaled any 4th of July back home. Tom Fenton, CBS News, Paris.
So the big party's about over now. For the French, it was a very good party. But, Dan, let me ask you, what did the United States get out of going to this party?
The United States and George Bush got exactly out of this economic summit what they wanted. They wanted a picture of harmony, agreement, no problems. That's exactly what they got. The pre-cooked schedule and package here came out precisely as George Bush and his delegation wanted it. They did not want any harsher condemnation of the Chinese, nor any harsh new sanctions against the Chinese leadership. That wasn't done. They didn't want any heavy pressure for additional U.S. dollars for what President Bush wants to accomplish in Eastern Europe. There wasn't any talk of that. They didn't want to make a lot of news, and they didn't make a lot of news. Frankly, the biggest news here, the talk of Paris, as far as the summit is concerned, was how Mrs. Thatcher was treated, and there's no doubt that once she kind of put down the French Revolution and its importance, that she was treated more or less as a cynic at a wedding, not very well by the French. But it went, from George Bush's standpoint, Bob, exactly as he wanted it to go.
Dan, what was all this that John Sununu, the White House Chief of Staff, was talking about, some kind of new Bush doctrine for Eastern Europe? Now, are we going to hear more about that?
I don't think so, Bob. Nobody really knows exactly what the Bush doctrine is or was. Apparently, what John Sununu was suggesting with the Bush doctrine was what the president's been talking about, of trying more to pull the Eastern European nations away from the Soviet orbit. But both publicly and privately, Secretary of State Baker and the head of the National Security Council, Brent Scowcroft, made it pretty clear these were not their words, but this was the essence of what they were conveying. George Bush is not exactly a doctrine sort of fella. I think we've heard the last of any talk of, quote, a Bush doctrine.
All right, Dan. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Bob.
And still ahead on the CBS Evening News, the first test flight of the B-2 was not to be. And later, the flight from NASA of the people who put man on the moon.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
240.
211.
You? 175.
Whoa!
A few years ago, hardly anyone knew their cholesterol level.
215.
But now people are finding out.
182.
Many have started eating a low-fat, low-cholesterol diet, including foods like Kellogg's Common Sense Oat Bran, with more oat bran than any leading ready-to-eat cereal.
219. I gotta start living right.
Kellogg's Common Sense Oat Bran. To more and more people, it's the oat bran that makes sense.
Ready, New York?
Yeah, New York is ready.
Ready, Santa Fe?
Right, we're online.
This is Charleston. We're ready.
We're ready in Dallas.
Let's do it.
Everybody online?
Go ahead, drop it.
Can a 10-city conference call be so clear you can actually hear a pin drop? Got it. For fiber optic calls that sound better and cost less.
I got it.
That was a pin? Call Sprint now and talk with the best.
Get ready for a new eye drop so refreshing you won't believe your eyes.
Wow.
Introducing new Visine Extra. An extra medication cools, soothes, moisturizes, and protects irritated eyes. New Visine Extra.
To my beautiful wife.
It's nice to know he still loves the way you look. And if you wear dentures, you can count on Effordent to freshen up dentures and clean away stains so well. With Effordent, all he'll notice is you.
This is the day the B-2 stealth bomber was to finally make its maiden flight, but the plane never got off the ground, and CBS News Pentagon correspondent David Martin reports.
It was just after dawn when the stealth bomber appeared on the runway and began going through final checks before what was supposed to be its first flight. There was a brief distraction when a small private plane landed unannounced. The pilot said he was lost, but Air Force police handcuffed him and took him in for questioning. The bomber revved up its 4 engines and then ominously headed back toward the hangar. The problem? Low fuel pressure.
A decision has been made to postpone first flight. The earliest that first flight will occur is within 2 to 3 days.
Delays in flight tests are normal, but there is nothing normal about the $70 billion project to build 132 of the radar-evading bombers. Even before today's delay, members of Congress had vowed they would never vote the $8 billion a year the Air Force wants for full-scale production. But any cut in the budget will only slow down production and drive the cost of each plane higher.
If you say, okay, it's only going to be $3 billion a year, we have to restructure it to get only $3 billion, then the price per plane goes to over $1 billion per plane.
Defense Secretary Dick Cheney seems to think it would be better to kill the program outright.
Perfectly legitimate decision. I think it's wrong, but it's a legitimate decision. What you shouldn't do is nickel and dime it to death.
Air Force officials are determined not to fly until all systems are ready. Safety is paramount, they say. But they also know that each day's delay only adds to the controversy over whether the stealth bomber is worth the price. David Martin, CBS News, Palmdale, California.
Federal investigators finally got to talk to pilot Thomas Root today about his bizarre flight down the East Coast this week and his mysterious bullet wound. They had plenty of questions, but Root had few answers. Juan Vasquez reports.
Recovering from his gunshot wound at a Florida hospital today, Thomas Root gave investigators what they called a free and open statement, but it didn't solve the puzzle.
Stated that he passed out, the last thing he recalls and the next thing he recalls. He states he does not know anything about a bullet wound.
His family said Root is still under sedation, has difficulty stringing words together, remembers little.
He doesn't have any idea what happened after he passed out until he got in the water.
He has no recollection of when the gun discharged or how it discharged, and I questioned him last night. Did you recall handling or anything? He says no.
Since his remarkable flight and rescue from the mile-deep waters of the Atlantic Ocean, questions have been raised about Root's legal practice in Washington, where he specialized in communications law.
He was probably trying to make a name for himself. Unfortunately, he probably bit off more than he can chew, and he got in over his head.
A company he represented, Sunrise Management Services, is under investigation for possible fraud.
There are allegations of securities violations, and that a substantial number of North Carolinians have invested money.
Last spring, agents raided Root's hangar and found a quantity of weapons, including automatic rifles, but all except one were properly registered. The family says Root is a gun enthusiast, that he's looking forward to going home. Federal investigators, meanwhile, are still looking for answers. Juan Vasquez, CBS News, Miami.
Feel your oats with Post Oat Flakes. Feel your oats with Post Oat Flakes. Golden toasted flakes with whole grain oat nutrition and a crunchy oat taste. Feel your oats with Post Oat Flakes.
It took 2,000 years, but a revolutionary discovery is changing the way men think about coloring their gray hair. It's called Just for Men, from the leader in men's hair coloring. Simply apply Just for Men, and in 5 minutes, shampoo out. Your gray is blended away, leaving your natural-looking color. 5 minutes. Here, look at me. Just for Men leaves your hair looking healthy and fuller, and it won't fade or wash out. Just for Men, in the men's hair care section.
Getting out and enjoying yourself. That's what life is all about. And it's easy when you have the best bladder control protection. Depend Undergarments has special layers of absorbency that won't bunch or sag, and elastic legs for a better fit. They're the best protection and the best way for you to get back into life. Hey there.
Get back into life with Depend.
I got a flat tire. Now my stomach's on fire. My day. And Mylanta, too.
Introducing Mylanta 2 roll packs for double strength antacid relief wherever you are.
Because my life takes Mylanta 2.
Tens of thousands of Siberian coal miners met tonight with the Soviet Minister of Mining, hoping to end a widespread strike there. The strikers are seeking local control of their mines with improved working and living conditions. The strikers reportedly were joined today by some local Communist Party officials and mine executives. Japan's Prime Minister, who has more than his share of domestic problems, has escaped them for a few days anyway. He's been in Paris for the economic summit, but he has maintained a very low profile. Bill Whitaker reports.
Imagine coming here to avoid the spotlight.
In Paris, Japanese Prime Minister Sosuke Uno is just one of the crowd, almost lost in summitry hoopla. For Uno, this is time off from the sex scandal and political fallout that threatened to topple his government.
So it's a kind of vacation for him, and perhaps he's glad to escape Japan.
Uno needs a successful summit to boost his standing at home, so he came to Paris bearing gifts, $43 billion for the environment and third world. Japan's money has gotten a better reception than its prime minister. French President Mitterrand snubbed him. A private meeting with President George Bush lasted only 6 minutes.
Clearly, he doesn't carry much prestige. I think this is shown in the way that he's found it hard to meet other leaders at the summit.
Still, Uno represents a Japan that is rich and secure. Political leaders here doubt that even a poor performance by Uno at the summit can damage this country's position as a world economic leader. But it could further damage his ruling party 1 week before tough national elections. So to help revamp his image, his party is releasing this video showing Uno the family man.
He finds inner tranquility from the tea ceremony. His wife is an accomplished tea master.
Many say it's too little, too late.
Everybody knows that he won't be a prime minister after he returned and after going through the next election.
They are already debating how to elect his successor, so things aren't too bright for Mr. Uno.
His best hope now is that this plays well in Japan. Bill Whitaker, CBS News, Tokyo.
China intensified its campaign today to isolate itself from foreign criticism. Authorities swooped down on Beijing hotels today to remove all foreign magazines from newsstands. And it was announced that there'd be no further sales of imported publications, which covered in depth the pro-democracy movement and its crushing.
There are vitamins you take because you feel you have to, and vitamins you take because you want to. Vitamins can be flaky, bumpy, crispy, crunchy, and taste so good. It's Kellogg's Product 19 with 100% vitamin nutrition. The only high nutrition flake made with the wholesome goodness of 4 grains, including oats. Kellogg's Product 19. Flaky, bumpy, crispy, crunchy, tasty vitamins.
A lot of people can't wait until they retire. But I always liked my work. It worried me that when I turned 65, I'd have to leave. Rules are rules, and that was company policy. Then AARP helped get mandatory retirement eliminated. Now I can retire when I want to retire.
Bye, dear.
Not when someone else wants me to.
AARP, making a difference.
Time for a quick break and one of my favorite quick snacks, Sunsweet pitted prunes. Surprised? I don't know why. They're good for you and they're delicious. Rounder, plumper, Sunsweet.
You, behind the coffee cup, show us your Caffrey smile. Caffrey decaffeinates your smile. Caffrey toothpaste helps keep coffee and tea from staining your smile like they stain your cup. Get Caffrey toothpaste or gel and show us your Caffrey smile.
Space Shuttle Columbia was rolled out to the launch pad at the Kennedy Space Center overnight. The 4-mile trip from the giant hangar took about 7 hours. The shuttle is scheduled now to blast off early next month on a mission to deploy a military spy satellite. And that brings us to our final report from our Washington notebook tonight about a law that goes into effect next week, which is already having an unexpected and unwelcome impact on both the space program and the defense establishment.
There are people that left that should have been working in NASA for another 2, 3, 4 years, senior people, and they left because of this, and I think that's a crying shame.
As NASA celebrates the 20th anniversary of the moon landing, a disturbing number of high-level people who made the landing possible are walking out the agency doors, literally leaving while there's still time to get another job. Robert Aller, head of NASA's Office of Space Operations, is the latest of 9 key managers to flee. Why? Because of a new ethics law which kicks in tomorrow.
And it's poorly understood and extremely vague.
quitting too the head of NASA's Ames Research Center after 18 years on the job.
The government seems to sometimes do things that are not in its best interest.
The new law is supposed to stop the so-called revolving door, which now allows government officials to go to work for companies after they funnel big government contracts the company's way.
You don't want people making a public policy decision because they may later be able to make some money off it.
But the law is panicking many government workers in highly specialized fields, aerospace, electronics, computers, because it means that once they've been associated with those programs for the government, they can't do the same kind of work in private industry if their company does business with the government. And the new law has real teeth in it. Companies could be fined $1 million for hiring them, and the workers themselves could be sent to jail.
Any individual could theoretically be subject to a prosecution for going to work for virtually any company in this country, because just about every company sells the government something.
Belatedly, officials are discovering that dozens of people have already quit highly skilled jobs. Others are refusing to apply for jobs the government critically needs to fill. More than 30 people have said no thanks to one of the Pentagon's most important jobs, Undersecretary of Acquisition, the position which supervises the purchase of all military weapons.
Oh, it's going to have an effect on the way they do business. It's going to make the government a much less smart buyer of scientific and technical products and much less able to manage scientific and technical undertakings. I had one former NASA official tell me a few weeks ago that under this law there's no way the United States could go to the moon again.
Maybe not, but starting Monday, they'll have to try. That's the news. Connie Chung will be here tomorrow. Later tonight on West 57th, a profile of actor and comedian Billy Crystal. I'm Bob Schieffer, CBS News, New York. Good night.
We're on the move, leading the way to a better tomorrow through innovations in telecommunications, medical systems, power generation, automotive electronics, components, and automation. With over 28,000 employees at 400 locations coast to coast. We are Siemens.
Now, new scientific tests prove Heart's Blockade Repellent gives your pet total protection against fleas and ticks, or your money back. Unsolicited, here's what some satisfied Blockade users have told us.
Blockade is a great spray. I use it on my 4 dogs, and they have had no fleas for 2 months. I wish all dog owners would try it.
Last spring, we purchased a can of Blockade, and the entire spring and summer, we didn't have one tick or flea. Your product is wonderful.
Heart's Blockade, guaranteed flea and tick protection that really works.
I eat nutritious meals with plenty of fruit and vegetables, so how come I'm the one with painful gas?
Surprise! Foods high in nutrition are often high in gas. But Gas X gets rid of the gas, so you feel better fast. Eat right and feel right with Gas X.
It's time once again for Kinko's 2.5-cent copy sale. You pay just 2.5 cents each for white letter-sized copies. We'll be open 24 hours a day for this 1-week only sale. Get your 2.5-cent copies at Kinko's, the Copy Center.
The challenger, Steve Collins, the champion. A new generation of middleweights in a fight for the USBA crown on CBS Sports Sunday.
This is CBS.
The Grumman